In this lesson, we'll start to talk a little bit more in detail about beams. We've dabbled with beams a little bit off and on. I'm going to start with our structural template file, which again is specified in our options under our big blue R. Now, we're going to start to talk about structure. Let's get rid of this architectural one here while we're at it. So let's go in here to options. File locations. This is where that structural template is located inside of here. So I want to go to interface, and I want to turn off the architectural one. So then my structure is right at the upper left. That'll help me out a little bit with my kind of clicking process. And there's our good old beam tool right there. I can right click on here and say add to quick access toolbar, which puts it on there, which puts it right here, which makes it nice and accessible. So we're going to start off by just talking a little bit about kind of the basics with beams. First of all, beams come in steel, wood, and concrete. Concrete kind of joins itself and creates almost like a monolithic connection between the objects. Steel puts a little bit of a cutback, and wood generally just butts up against it. So just we'll talk more about the different properties of how that works. So we have our beam tool here. So it depends on what beams are loaded. So before you do anything, you should go down to your families, and down at the bottom under structural framing, you'll notice there's no category called structural beams. There's a structural beam system, which is a sequence of beams and spacing and beam types, but that's a beam system. So framing under here, you'll see that you've got rectangular beams, you've got HSS hollow section, and then you've got a regular kind of wide flange universal beam in there. Each family has different types. So this shows you what's currently available that was kind of came with this template file. So, and this is typical with everything. It wouldn't matter if you're looking at columns or if you're looking at beams inside of the project browser over here. Structural framing, so we can see, it'll say beam, beam, beam. So even joists and purlins are technically beams, and they all kind of fall in under framing. So this is what's currently loaded. So when you start your beam tool or your column or anything else, these are the options you'll see that show up in our type selector. So if we say beam, we'll see inside of here, it'll show you the last one that was used. If you click on here, it's going to show you, if you look here, there's that concrete beam, there's that HSS section, and there's the universal beam there. So these represent these. Okay, so just and you can just drag them in from here if you want. You can just go straight over to here and grab this 300 by 600, drag and drop it, and then it'll start the tool, and then you can start to draw. Okay, and then we can go over to here and grab a steel section, drag it in. Okay, and I'm just being careless. I'm not looking at my levels or my properties or anything like that. Escape, escape. Okay, let's load in a wood one. So let's start beam. And then we don't see the one we want on here, so we're going to say load family. And we're going to go down to structural framing again. And let's go to wood, double click. And let's go to a Western species glue lamp. So we hit open. If it has a type library, it'll show you a list of different sizes and types to pick. In this case, it just loaded all the types. So now you'll notice that, look, under glue lamp, there's a 79 by 305, okay, which is about 3 inches by 12, so 3 inches by 1 foot. And then we've got a 120, which is a 5 foot by, about, 1 foot 3. Okay. So let's pick the bigger one, and let's just kind of drag it in. So we can do that, or we can start the beam tool off of here and then pick it off of our list over here. It's up to you. Okay, and then click. And again, we're going to talk about all these options up inside of here. I'm completely ignoring those for a reason right now. Click, and then I'm done. Okay, if you have chain turned on, then as you click, it'll create a chain of beams just like walls. Okay, escape, escape. We'll talk about the 3D snapping in a separate lesson. This guy over here. Okay. So for the time being, you can leave it on, but we'll have a separate lesson on that and all of these options inside of here. Okay, escape, escape. Now, beams look a certain way based on your detail level. If you go to medium or fine, you're going to see a little more detail. Okay, if you zoom inside of here. Okay, so this is our structural wood glulam. This is our steel HSS. This is concrete. Okay, and then this is our wood beam. So if you go to a 3D view, you'll see those beams inside of there. Okay, again, this view can be set up to be hidden line, okay, and coarse detail. Concrete doesn't go to coarse detail with the stick frame, okay. And also notice that in here we've got our analytical model turned on. If we go VV on the keyboard, if you go in here, if you turn this off, you won't see the analytical model. You'll just see the stick frame of the beam. VV on the keyboard again, turn on the analytical model. We've talked about this in our earlier lessons. You'll notice the stick frame and the analytical model aren't necessarily coincidental. Okay, and it depends. You can actually pick on here and you can change that stick frame justification over here. Center of geometry, you can actually say no. Put it at the location line and it'll actually move itself up there. So the stick frame symbol shows up when you're in coarse detail. Don't get that mixed up with the analytical model. Okay, the stick frame, okay, if I pick on that beam and I go back here and say, center of geometry, okay, that's the difference. Okay, the stick frame is the stick frame. The analytical model is the analytical structural connecting, where all the endpoints have to really join with each other. You can see the analytical model of this concrete beam is at the top, and the same as with these guys. Okay, and concrete doesn't have a stick frame model, so it just doesn't have it. Okay, so if you hover over here, that's the HSS section, and if you pick on here, you'll see that the stick frame is at the center of the geometry, not at the location line. Or you can say top, or you can say bottom. So that's the stick frame setting, which only comes with beams, doesn't come with columns, for instance. So again, just kind of brushing on a couple of the basics of beams. And again, go back to fine detail, and then you can say wireframe if you want. Okay, and that goes for any view. Consistent colors. Okay, go back to a floor plan. What level was that on? Let's pick on here, and let's see. It's on level 2. Good. So over to level 2, which is the default level that the project starts on. Clicking out. Same thing goes for this view. You can go to wireframe. Okay, you can go VV on the keyboard. You can go into there and turn on the analytical model in this floor plan, because they all views have their own settings. Inside of here, if we go hidden line, okay, click on, we're still going to actually see that analytical model, which is nice. Okay, as opposed to with a 3D view where you've got to go to wireframe. Okay, so the analytical model is always kind of nice to see. And then we can also control how these beams connect, etc. Of course, there'd be a column there usually. So, of course, we're going to talk all about that. So, just kind of the basics. When you want to load a beam, go into the structural framing, load it in. Once it's inside, you can start the beam tool here or up inside of here, or you can simply go down and navigate here anywhere in here. You can grab a door or window. You can go anywhere in the project browser and just kind of click on here and grab one of these guys and whoop, bring it out. If you bring a door out, you're going to have to pick a wall to put it in. If you drag a window in, okay, it's going to want a wall. Windows can't just float in space. Beams are different. They can just be there. They want to connect with other objects, which is worth pointing out. So when you draw beams, we'll see that their endpoints are very much attracted to grid lines and level lines and reference planes and other structural members. So beams, um, like all kind of structural elements and joists and stuff, they like to connect to other structural members, and they also are kind of snapped to grid lines and reference planes and level lines. They're very um, um, cooperative with the kind of the infrastructure of the model, being the datums, etc., and other structural components. So just to kind of point that out. So um, we haven't really drawn anything here that we can um, think of anything practical. We're just trying to get the basics down, and then we'll talk about the actual application in the next couple lessons.